Once, frozen water was more valuable than gold, not as a metaphor, not in some ancient myth, in living memory. January 1847. You're standing on the ice of Fresh Pond, Cambridge, Massachusetts. The air cuts your face raw. Around you, 100 men drag horse-drawn blades across the frozen surface, slicing the pond into perfect, glittering squares. Those blocks would reach Calcutta in 4 months. 353 ships left Boston Harbor that year, carrying nothing but frozen water. The man who built that empire died worth $200 million in today's dollars. He was selling water, just frozen water. How did a commodity that literally falls from the sky become the engine of global commerce? And what killed it? Not slowly, not gracefully, but completely within a single generation. The answer changes more than you'd expect. Here's what you probably believe. Ice has always been convenient, a thing you pull from your freezer without thinking. You assume the history of refrigeration is just gradual technical progress. Some engineer in a lab somewhere, improving things slowly. That sounds completely reasonable. It is completely wrong. The real story is a global trade war fought on frozen ponds, a single eccentric Bostonian against a world that had never considered cold to be a product. Before 1806, the notion of selling ice was so absurd that Tudor's own peers refused to lend him cargo space on their ships. Wouldn't touch it, and yet, within 50 years, 90,000 people would be employed in this industry, and their product would be restructuring the food supply of 3 continents. The central question this raises isn't technological, it's human. History has been hiding this in plain sight. Boston, winter of 1805. Frederick Tudor, 21 years old, from a wealthy Brahmin family, is at a dinner party. Someone mentions offhand that ice would sell for a fortune in the tropics. Tudor reportedly writes in his diary that night, "We will carry ice to the West Indies. We will do it." His family, by most accounts, thought he was losing his mind. Tudor's first shipment sailed to Martinique in 1806 aboard a brigantine. He had built no ice house at the destination. The ice melted almost immediately on arrival. He lost nearly everything. The Boston business community, which had refused to even lend him cargo space, was quietly satisfied. But Tudor didn't stop. He built ice houses in Havana. He studied insulation obsessively. He discovered that sawdust, a waste product of New England's booming lumber industry, essentially worthless, trapped cold with startling efficiency. By the early 1820s, around 3,000 tons of ice were leaving Boston annually, 2/3 of it under Tudor's control. Then came the invention that actually changed everything. In 1825, his employee Nathaniel Wyeth designed a horse-drawn ice cutter, a blade apparatus resembling a plow that could score a frozen pond into uniform, stackable blocks in a fraction of the time. The cost of harvesting fell from 30 cents per ton to 10 cents. Almost overnight, ice shifted from an elite luxury to something that resembled a commodity. The infrastructure of a global industry clicked into place. But that's only half the story. Here's the misconception that sounds completely sensible. Tudor's genius was selling ice to warm places. He saw a gap in the market, people sweating in Havana, and filled it. Clever marketing. A niche product for the wealthy. Reasonable. And almost entirely beside the point. The real power of ice wasn't what it did at the dinner table, it was what it did to everything else. Ice allowed Chicago meatpackers to slaughter cattle in summer instead of only in winter. By 1884, Armour and Swift were shipping 173,000 tons of refrigerated beef to the eastern seaboard per year, up from just 15,000 tons 4 years earlier. Ice enabled refrigerator railroad cars, which extended the reach of California's fruit to New York and New England's fish to Cincinnati. By 1855, the U.S. ice industry carried a value of between $6 and $7 million, roughly $130 million today, and was accelerating. And then there was India. In 1833, Tudor combined with businessmen Samuel Austin and William Rogers to ship ice aboard the brigantine Tuscany to Calcutta. The Anglo-Indian elite, desperate for relief from the heat, immediately exempted the imports from East India Company tariffs, an almost unprecedented concession. Between 1833 and 1850, Tudor made more than $220,000 in Calcutta profits alone, equivalent to nearly $5 million today. Ice didn't just cool drinks. It reorganized the entire geography of food production and consumption. So why does almost nobody know this story? By the 1880s, the American ice trade employed an estimated 90,000 people and 25,000 horses. The Hudson River alone had 135 major warehouses along its banks. 1,735 vessels were required in 1880 just to carry ice south to the cities. The industry was capitalized at $28 million, roughly $660 million today. This was not a niche business. This was infrastructure. Norway had entered the trade, and here is where it gets strange. By 1900, Norway was exporting 1 million tons of ice per year to Britain, and in the early 1860s, a Norwegian lake called Lake Oppegård was officially renamed Wenham Lake, after the premium ice brand from Wenham, Massachusetts, because British customers trusted that name. So Norway simply became Wenham. Nobody in London checked. Branding as geography, cold as identity. Then came the detail that rewrites the ending. BU biologist Richard Primack has spent years cross-referencing Henry David Thoreau's meticulous nature journals against modern climate data from Walden Pond. His finding? The pond now freezes nearly 2 weeks later than it did in Thoreau's day and stays frozen for a shorter window. The pond Tudor's men worked, the pond Thoreau complained about having invaded, is already a different pond. A 2021 study published in Physical Review X confirmed measurable decline in global lake ice cover since the 19th century. The ice wasn't only killed by refrigerators, it was already disappearing. By 1914, more artificial ice was being produced in the United States than naturally harvested ice. 26 million tons of plant ice against 24 million tons cut from ponds. The Hudson warehouses were abandoned. The ice ships rotted in the harbors. An industry that had employed the equivalent of a small nation collapsed within a decade. Not from failure, but from victory. It had succeeded at making cold cheap. What replaced it is sitting in your kitchen right now. The domestic refrigerator. The same principle Tudor spent 2 decades and a personal fortune chasing, keeping things cold long enough to matter, now runs silently behind you, around the clock, for almost nothing. You don't notice it. You were never supposed to. The ice trade succeeded so completely at making cold ordinary that it erased itself from memory. So, the next time you drop a cube of ice into a glass without thinking, hear it crack, watch it fog the sides. Consider what it cost to make that seem effortless. There were men who slept in January barns, who drove horses across frozen ponds in the dark before dawn, who lost everything when the winter ran warm and the ice simply refused to come. They built a global empire out of cold air and water, and then the world forgot they existed. Some fortunes are made of money, some are made of winter. If this changed how you see something ordinary, drop a comment. What everyday object do you think is hiding a story this strange? Subscribe if you want more history that's been hiding in plain sight. This is Object Lore. The history of the world is hiding in plain sight. Until next time.